And there we go. So thank you very much, Eglantine, for talking with us today at Women Love Tech. And I'm interviewing you today because you're a successful woman in the Australian technology industry. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like, what you do, and what it's like, a day in the life of a CTO?
Good morning, Pamela. Thanks a lot for having me. Yes, more than happy to take you through what a day in the life of a CTO is. But I think I think you won't have 2 days alike, and I'll share a little bit a story of a day in my current role in Pexa. That's a day in my previous role with Dulux Group, and it would have been very different. I think it reflects the nature of technology and the role technology plays in organization. And consequently, you might be the role of a disruptor, you might be the role of a connector, and that ends up being your day. So typically, Pexa is a really fast growing organization, and it's a technology organization, really fast growing. So we have a core business of e-conveyancing, but we are growing through our inside business, our venture business, and we are growing internationally. So my days are really looking after what are we doing to continue to have a really strong and good market in Australia? And that means the resilience of our platform, a lot of effort on cybersecurity and on resilience. And we're going to look at what are the frameworks, have external committee, but then we're going to work on our extension, international extension, and that's going to be working with local regulator and team between UK and India, developing our platform over there. And of course, like any role of a senior leader, there is a big part around people. So building the right team, the right organization, the right culture, coaching your team, coaching your greater group, making sure you have the culture that fits what needs to happen in the organization. Again, in our case, a lot of creative thinking, ability to get things done, to work together very fast, making sure we are nurturing the culture that will support our strategy. Yeah, that's one day in my life.
That sounds interesting. But I have noticed as well, you originally studied commerce and business and accounting abroad. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey, how you started, how you came to start out doing that, and then how you came to sort of end up in a role such as you're in now?
Yeah. Yes, actually, and it's interesting because I'm looking at the systemic challenge of um, girls and teenagers not embracing career in technology. That would have never crossed my mind to embrace a career in technology, never, for a lot of reasons which I can talk about. But I studied business, and I wanted two things to happen. The first is I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, so I was hesitating between engineering and business, and I thought business was slightly more suited to what I enjoyed doing, but I wanted to explore something very broad that was allowing me to explore an array of things. And again, business was really fitting that bill. I wanted to have the opportunity to study abroad as well. I was very keen at the time already to explore different ways of working, different cultures. So I picked up a cursus as well that was allowing me to have a dual diploma and to make sure that I had a couple of years abroad and brushing up my language skill and my international skills. So that really started from there. And I started my career very similarly in consulting, in strategy consulting, thinking I don't know yet what I'm going to do. So let's look across an organization and see what it looks like. And it was quite confronting at 22 or 23 to be in the role of the strategy consultant, where really you have a very limited experience. It's quite interesting. But the market was phenomenal. It was the early 2000s, telco boom. We were setting up telco operator across Europe. It was extremely energizing. Now, I have to say, in my work, I did find sometimes the work a little bit too conceptual for me to hang into something. And I really wanted to have something that I could feel was my own. And I started to do some process design. And from that, I was very quickly in the team that was doing process and systems design. And I got into technology through that angle. Like we were building those massive organizations, designing process, designing the tools, supporting the process. And for me, that was concrete enough that I had the sense of achievement. I really enjoyed that. And it was not at all what I was expecting from technology. And I had the image. I think the IT crowd did a lot of damage to the IT crowd. The show did a lot of damage to our industry because I had this help desk ID.
Yeah.
But actually, the team in tech was connectors, process builders, and change makers, really change makers. So I enjoyed that, and from there I joined technology consulting in ERP consulting, and the rest is history.
Oh, well, that's interesting. And it's interesting you say you would never have thought of it, because I think even now today, there's quite a few, younger women that may not even consider a career in tech. And yet, there's, as you say, can be so satisfying and can be so, so much fun to do. I think that somehow the tech world hasn't translated as a fun sort of role, or in that
Yes.
way.
We lock it in. We still lock it in stereotype. It's you're going to be appalled by that story. But the other day, I was talking about options and for my daughter who is selecting her VC topic. I said you need to have at least one or two tech subjects, and she told me, no, I don't want to work in a basement. I mean, I'm the CTO of a tech company. We are in the most vibrant workplace. My previous work was a very vibrant workplace. I don't know if her mother is not her role model in this one, what chance does the rest of her year age have? I'm amazed by how few exposure to the technology work, the jobs in technology. I'm amazed by how few exposure this generation has. I mean, I get it from our generation where it was still emerging, but we're not emerging at all right now. We know that we're going to miss 1.2 million workers we're desperately trying to build, but we know as well that we know better. We know as well that it's extremely broad. What was very a work when we think about software developer or backend, we are thinking introverts, just problem solvers, but quite complex but narrow kind of impact you want to have, very boxed. Narrow is not exactly the right term, but something very specific where you have room today for people who are very creative, who are really people connectors, who are extroverts, who want to build beautiful product to the work, who get teams to work together. When you're an agile scrum master, it's all about coordination and energy and making things happen. It's not about solving a problem on your own on a computer. So I know personally I did have those preconceived ideas very clearly. It took me to work in an office and to start to see all the different work to realize. And I think that's part as well of our problem, because you have actually a lot of young ladies either not embracing technology study, or even dropping at the end of technology study. They would find it very dry, the community are dry, it's male dominated. But when you reach the workforce, it's very different.
Yes, definitely. I actually went to a conference recently, and they had the Minister for Science talking and Technology talking, and I think I wonder if you agree with this. They were saying we do need to get to women and to young people as well, because we have a tech skills crisis, but we need to get to people much earlier, like much younger.
Yes.
Do you agree with that? We need to get to them somehow much younger.
So listen, I know that the challenge is that the market is evolving incredibly fast, and incredibly fast than some of our big systems, like the educational system, has learned to evolve. So we really have to accept that there is a confrontation here of again, a work environment evolving much faster than in our education system. That's something we're going to have to try to reconcile. I think as well, the segregation is still very true of what we encourage girls to do and what we encourage boys to do. It's still very true. I was amazed. A couple of years ago, I was talking to my friend whose daughter were in one of the public schools close to mine. And she was telling me that her daughter was desperate because there was in her elective, you had no robotic, no data analytic, but you had sewing, you had plays, you had, and that's all beautiful and wonderful, but you want to have a blend. There was no blend. And I'm talking something about 3 or 4 years ago, which I found absolutely surreal. So I could not agree more. You really have to start by opening this world of possibilities very, very young. You need to expose to what are the different roles and what kind of different skill set. Creative doesn't mean that you're going to do painting. You can absolutely be very creative in tech. you need to have role model kicking in as well. I think just again there is this image that we are fighting against. Again, I'm really coming back to my comment on the IT crowds, but I think that's true. I think we all have those idea of what technology was 30 years ago. We are thinking, Bill Gates and his shirts and the pen in his pocket, and that's technology. Well, that has kind of
Yeah,
evolved.
yeah, that's right. We
Uh,
need those role models, don't we? But you would be one, Eglantine. You would be a role model of a woman enjoying tech and enjoying her role and enjoying what you do.
Listen, I'm certainly trying to play that role. I have to say the community for me is incredibly important. I think that we many times in my career I've either looked up to or connected with fantastic group of women, and it is important. I'm working equally well with my male colleagues, but I was many times in a role where I was the only woman in a team of 10 or 12 or more. And sometimes you want to be able to share some of your challenges, some of your own personal, with a group of peers of women as well. So those communities, they are extremely important. I make sure that I'm joining some of the communities. I make sure that I'm mentoring in those communities, just like I've really enjoyed being mentored, and I'm still enjoying being mentored. So yeah, there is an extra effort that we need to make happen in that space. Absolutely, yeah.
Have you just thinking, have you noticed during your journey, because you've come through from accounts into technology and now,
Mm.
a CTO role, have you noticed some changes within the industry? Like, is it becoming a little bit more inclusive as you in your journey?
So I would say yes and no. So first of all, keep in mind I worked in a lot of different countries in my career. So and it's different everywhere. I worked across Europe, across US, sometime in Latin America. I worked across Asia. So when you're in Brazil, when you're in Indonesia, the role you have as a woman in society is very different. Um, and there is some things that are still holding women's career in Australia. So typically coming from country where we have much more sophisticated early children care system, you have that choice. I had the choice. Personally, I've always wanted both to have a family and to work. It was important for me to have both. I could go back to work 3 months after having my babies, and I had three of them, so you can absolutely do it. But I was back at work, and I had a system that allowed me to do that, and I had an absence of judgment that allowed me to do that. I don't know that if I had started in a country where you don't have any sort of support, you have to have your family around, I don't know that I would have been able to do it.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so you need to have those structure, and you have some country variation. That being said, yes, I am seeing some difference. I am absolutely some difference. I think sometimes when I talk to younger ladies in my team, they are telling me it's a bit hard. The group are still very male dominated, etc. That's true. That's true, and it can be confronting. But in reality, the massive difference is there is an awareness that you need this diversity of thinking and of experience and of sensitivity in the conversation, because tech is really a vehicle for change, and you need to have all those elements to drive a positive vehicle for change. If you look at all the terrible IT failure, it's usually because those massive programs, hundreds of millions, it's usually because they are very much built in isolation. You try to build a stack of tech, and nothing happens out of that. So I think we all have enough experience now to know that you want to have this diversity of thinking. Again, we are desperate for talent. We need 1.2 million talents between now and 2030, on top of what we are educating and bringing it as a migrant worker. So obviously, there is a real appetite to have more women in technology. And I think that's the difference. I think now there is a system making the effort to be more inclusive, to understand what are going to be the roadblock and how we can remove those roadblocks.
Okay, no, that's good. Thank you. What would you say were your main challenges, even if they were personal ones? What were your main challenges to moving into a role such as a CTO?
Um, well, I think the societal expectations are still very heavy on women, um, and and I'm probably a bit demanding with myself as well. So anyway, I wanted to do both full time. But again, raising 3 children and taking the big part of the workload at home, and still building your full self at work, building a strong agenda, etc. That's a challenge. I feel that it's not balanced yet. You don't have the structure to help you yet, but you don't have the culture to help you yet either. And I'm sure it would have been hard for my husband at time. And that creates pressure on your family as well. When we arrived in Australia and he followed me here, there was a bit of a surprise when we were meeting families and they were saying, so what are you doing? And I was saying, oh, I'm following her. And it was a bit of, oh, really? So that's one challenge I have had. I did find early in my career, I did find very disheartening the toxic masculinity and some direct comments on, yes, you're much better than your peer, but when I would find out I was paying a good 20% less than my peers, I had one leader telling me, yes, and you're better than them, yes, but you're a woman, that's already a great salary for a woman. Yeah, so
that would be difficult.
Always a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
I did find as well when I joined executive team, when I joined my first executive team, I did find that the lack of diversity in the thinking, and it was a good team, but we were old-fashioned manufacturing organization, and I did find that the view was very traditional, and again, really single view of things, and trying to bring a different perspective and trying to bring the human element and the connection element was extraordinarily hard. I don't find it nowhere near as hard 10 years down the road, but at the time it was incredibly hard and painful.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. What I'm just thinking, as you've mentioned, we are going to need more people in tech by the year 2030. From your perspective in there working as a CTO, what do you think it's important that we do to encourage definitely more people into tech, but also more women into tech roles?
Yeah, so I think in the first there is a lot of talk about migration, skilled migration, but of course I'm a big believer of skilled migration myself. I've had the chance to work in almost 25 countries. That creates a richness of perspective that it's very hard to replicate. So having people who have worked in 1, 2, 3 countries who speak more than one language, that's always a gift. That's one point. The second is actually we have countries that are much more advanced than Australia in terms of parity of women in technology. So for instance, India has got much better rates of women studying technology. So if you're hiring skilled migrants, you have a much better chance to get women in technology. So of course, skilled migration is a path. We talked about earlier, I really believe in what we talked about earlier, which is the awareness as young as possible, primary, but definitely middle school and secondary school, definitely there. I'm seeing a lot of fantastic things happening. Of course, we have Go for IT girls, really educating young girls the different work in technology, but exposing them to role model at all levels and in a range of a role. So that is a fantastic initiative. I'm watching as well with a lot of admiration what Lisa Tobin is doing at SICK. And she's organizing in the next holiday Camp SICK for girls in year 9, and they're going to spend a week of coding, pairing with other people excited about technology. They're going to be listening to great talks and meet people, women in technology. So just, you're looking at those 15, 16-year-old girls, and they're going to be immersed in that. I think that's very powerful. And I think as well, it's critical for industry to step up. We are waiting a lot for the government to do a lot of good things, and so the government should, and education should. But the reality is everybody will have to go and take their ownership of that part of the system. So I look at what SIG is doing. I think it's really fabulous. The third thing that we've accelerated dramatically in the past couple of years is reskilling. Dramatically. And First, because we know that we can't wait 5 years or 3 years. So keep in mind, we didn't have any international student for a couple of years. So the pipeline coming now are very dry. So not only we don't have people coming in, but we don't have as many people coming out of the pipeline of talent. So that's really pushing the creativity. To be frank, we could have done that before, but I think now that everybody is against the wall, we are getting much more serious about this. So there is really the lack of supply that is creating this. But you know what? We are seeing as well that reskilling gives us access to really broad and diverse talent. So we had people coming from all sort of walk of life, all sort of different age. And of course, that's the fantastic mechanism to re-engage women, whether they have a background in tech and they've lost maybe some of their confidence after a long maternity break, or whether they've done something and they want to change career, they don't feel that confidence. It is a fantastic mechanism to bring diversity in technology. At the moment, we're having a couple of ladies with such interesting backgrounds. We have someone in the data working with landscape designer background. We had someone with a zoology background. You're getting the creativity, the depth of the thinking, the angle that you're bringing into the conversation is dramatically different. So that's a fantastic avenue as well. And we're looking at, we're building Pexa, we're building the Pexa Academy to help us keep the skill relevant and skilling. But of course, you have new universities emerging that are helping us doing this as well, with shortened learning, very deep but shortened learning cycle. With 6 to 9 months, you can kick a career in tech.
Actually, I was just going to ask you about that, because I have done some stories on the Holberton School. And
yes,
the ability, that's a very good place for people to go to reskill or upskill, isn't it? Because they can, I did one story, you can become a software engineer in 9 months. If you,
yes.
Which we're
yes,
going
exactly.
to need, aren't we?
So that's incredibly promising. We had, I think everybody was trying things like this in the past years. You had the government initiative, and in 4 months to bring back people into the workforce with a level of digital skills. My experience with this, it's a fantastic door in, but 4 months is a bit short. And it requires a very strong structure on the other side to welcome those people in the workforce. Really strong culture to make sure that they can help develop. 9 months intense, 9 months, 12 months, very intense, condensed work with not only the skills that you want those people to learn, but the culture, the mindset, the ways of working. So it's a lot of peer learning, it's a lot of doing on the job, it's a lot of publishing the content, what you work, article reading, sharing, all those micro learning, those community pairing, etc. It's very powerful. It's very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you work a little bit with the Holberton School? Like, I've heard you do sponsor some students or something like that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So we've been, again, we were trialing an array of things. I have to say at the moment, Holberton is probably the most promising of our tests. We're having someone who started 6 months ago now, and we're going to have people starting very soon as well. Yes, and it's very exciting for us because it allows us to pick very engaged candidates who get an interest, a passion, but they haven't studied technology formally. But we've been able to select fantastic women as well. Again, of course, we are working on our diversity here in Pexa. We have the technology has 26% of female only, which is slightly below benchmark and definitely very disappointing. So we are working actively on that, and Holberton is helping us with that. But as well, again, it's helping with this diversity of background. The candidates are fascinating. They come from all sort of walks of life. So we've been engaging in this process. I think it will take longer for us, to see the benefit of that, and we need to scale that up. But for the moment, we've been starting with a couple of candidates, and that's very promising, very exciting.
Yes, I've actually interviewed a few of them, and you're right, they come from very interesting backgrounds, and sometimes they're interested in some aspect of technology, but when they broaden that out and do a course, it becomes a really good combination for them, because as you say, they never thought that working in tech would be as satisfying, and they didn't think it would be quite as creative until they did it.
Yes. I think people underestimate as well the strengths of the network. Like it's a strong The technology community is a beautiful, very vibrant community,
Yeah.
but you need to experience it to understand that. What this kind of what the Holberton course does as well, it's really not only it equips you with the skills, I think it equips you with a level of confidence. Again, you've done it on the job, you have a network. What I was hearing a lot in the previous reskilling attempt or program, shorter program, was really creating strong imposter syndrome. You'd come
Yeah.
with a bit of a skill set, and you would be feel very exposed to a group that has a depth of experience that you didn't have. I think Holberton prepares you very well for that as well.
Mm. Yes, when I've
That
interviewed
being
people,
said,
they sort of say
yeah,
that they had no idea, but they worked incredibly hard, but they did have a strong feeling of confidence by the end of it because they'd actually been
yeah,
doing it. Yeah,
yes,
which
yes.
is
Yeah,
interesting.
and they're super well supported. The program, I'm sure you've been you came across the program in more detail, but the program is remarkably well structured. We had a candidate who has been struggling. This is a big rewiring. You're not only learning skills. It's not like you're going into a history course and you can sit down with your book. You have to relearn how you work, how you interact, how you expose yourself. When you're starting to learn how to code, starting to publish article is incredibly confronting. You're really putting yourself out there. So it's a very deep rewiring, and it is not easy. But there is a fantastic support network, again, with their peers, but as well with there is a student success experience, and they're really making sure that the team are equipped, they are nurtured. They're bridging all the communication between us and the students. So that helps us as well to take it as a three-way. If we have a student that is struggling, they
Mm.
get the coaching, but they get the coaching from our side as well. They get the extra support, the extra space, which is really critical to set them up for success. But no one should imagine that it's an easy ride. Like, it requires a lot of courage and it requires a lot of support, and an organization needs to be ready to support it. Holberton is doing that really well. I
Mm.
think industries like my company really need to step up as well to do the same.
Yeah. What Eglantine, I'm just thinking, what would you say to a young woman who was, say, leaving, well, has done their HSE or something like that, and they're looking at all of their options, or they're at high school and they're looking at their options? What would you say to them about a career in tech? What would be your words?
Yes, I think, Pamela, I think I would finish by where we started, which is the technology today is probably the industry that is the most versatile. We need introvert, we need extrovert, we need people who are very detailed oriented, who are very meticulous. We need people who are innovative and who bring energies into the room and who could then drive change. We need connectors, we need individual learners. Everything is on the table. So just I would just start to kill that myth and go back into it's an industry that is going to offer incredible work opportunity for all different profiles. It's going to offer very sustainable opportunities as well. There is so much work emerging in technology, and there is so much more that is going to come. It's offering life opportunities as well. In technology, the skills are highly transferable. So in my experience, you can come and join, a company in a country somewhere else very easily. And if it's what's interesting to you, that's creating that kind of opportunity. I'm not looking at other industry, but when you're studying law, very hard to transfer. Even when you're studying medicine, actually extremely hard to transfer. You're studying in a country, you can't work anywhere else. Technology is probably the easiest thing to reuse internationally. So that's pretty powerful. So I would strongly encourage any young girl to go and explore that, because there is a beautiful, vibrant, empowering industry out there, very, very thirsty for women. And that's my second point, which is like we need so many girls and women to join the movement. Don't underestimate that. And I know it looks dry from outside, but inside there is strong community, a lot of support, and it's very vibrant. I think as well, what I would say is the doors are not closed anymore. It's the time is long gone where you were studying something and that was your job for the rest of your life. That's really long gone. We are looking at reskilling all the time. Actually, it's constant learning, but career shifts are very welcome. we used to look at a resume and say, oh, but you did this and now you're doing that. Tell me more. But now actually it's great. We're saying, oh my God, and you have that kind of background. That's going to work really well with this and that. And you're going to bring this. So don't be too afraid. Go and try something. Go and try something. If you don't like it, you know what? In 3 years, you'll reskill. You'll do something else in 5 years. That's going to be your life. So just jump, do something, try it. Yeah, absolutely. Go and enjoy it.
That's actually interesting, isn't it? Let's change. Well, look, that's about all I've got, but thank you very much, Eglantine. Was there anything else you wanted to say? Or
No, good. Thanks a lot for taking the time, Pamela.
yes, I'll show you what we when the story comes up. But thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for talking to Women Love Tech, because it's a we're that's what we're trying to do. A similar thing, probably, that what you're trying to do is just to educate people and to just get the word out there. And so thank you very much for
Yes.
your time.
Yes, you're fighting the good fight. Thanks a lot, Pamela. Have a great day.
Thank you, Eglantine. Bye. You have a good day. Bye.